Hello and welcome to this how-to video for Instant ID. In this video, I will be demonstrating how to configure printers within the Instant ID software. In order to use a printer with Instant ID, it must be configured within the Printing menu in the Settings section accessed via the gear icon. If you are configuring an Entrust printer which is connected via either Ethernet cable or Wi-Fi, you do not need to install any printer driver prior to configuring the printer within Instant ID. If you wish to use an Entrust printer connected via USB or a printer which is not manufactured by Entrust, then you will need to install the printer driver first. To obtain the printer driver for an Entrust printer, browse to the Entrust website, select Resources, your printer, and select the Drivers tab. Once the printer driver is downloaded, run the executable to extract the driver files. Then follow the steps to install a USB printer. Once the printer driver is installed, you can check the communications between the driver and printer are good. If the printer you are configuring in Instant ID has a smart card reader installed, then you will need to install the smart card reader drivers if the smart card reader is a 2-wire smart card reader. If your smart card reader is a single-wire smart card reader, then you do not need to install any smart card reader drivers. If you are unsure which smart card reader type is installed in your printer, please contact Entrust support. To configure a new printer, click on Create, which opens the printer registration screen. Give the printer a name, and if you wish, add a description for the printer. You then need to select the type of printer you wish to install. The types are listed here. I am configuring a Sigma DS3, so I select Next Gen. Entrust direct-to-card printers can use different printer resolutions. The printer resolutions become available once the Test Configuration button is clicked. Some Entrust printers can use a multi-hopper. The number of hoppers available for this printer is automatically updated after clicking the Test Configuration button. The chip encoding checkbox is selected if you are configuring a printer which contains a smart card reader. This will be covered later in the video. For the connection type, select Network if your printer is connected via Ethernet or Wi-Fi, or select USB if your printer is connected via USB. I'm going to start with a network connection. For a network connected printer, we have not needed to install any printer driver, and we simply enter the IP address, click the Test Configuration button, and then click Save. Once a printer is configured, you can either edit a configuration using the pencil icon, or you can delete the configuration using the X button. For a Sigma printer configured via network, you have an additional icon, which once clicked launches Printer Dashboard, the built-in diagnostics for Sigma printers. Next, we will configure a printer which is connected via USB cable to the Instant ID server. Give the printer name and description, select the printer type, in this case Next Gen, then select the connection type, USB. Then select the printer's drop-down list, which displays the printer drivers which are installed under Devices and Printers on the Instant ID server. The name of the printer driver for the Entrust printers is XPS Card Printer. I select this option from the drop-down list, click the Test Configuration button, and then save the configuration. The last configuration type is to configure a printer which is connected via USB to a PC other than the Instant ID server PC. For example, an Instant ID client PC. Before configuring a client USB printer, there are a few things you need to do on the client PC first. You need to install Instant ID, selecting the client installation type. You need to install the printer driver. You may also need to install the smart card reader drivers if the printer has a smart card reader installed. And lastly, you may need to configure ports within the firewall to allow communications between the client and the server PC. For advice installing Instant ID on a client PC and configuring ports within the firewall, please refer to the Instant ID install guide. Once those tasks are complete, click on Create. Give the printer a name and description. Select the type, in this case Next Gen, and select USB as the connection type. We then select the Advanced Setup checkbox, which disables the printer's drop-down list and presents a few extra boxes of information we need to enter. Firstly, we need to enter the printer name, exactly as it appears in the Devices and Printers list on the client PC. Next, we need to enter the IP address or the host name of the client PC the printer is connected to. And lastly, we need to enter the port number that was selected at the time of installing Instant ID on the client PC. In my case, I selected the default port number 9800. Then select Test Configuration and save. To configure a printer which has a smart card reader installed, check the box Chip Encoding. In the Connection Type drop-down list, we have three options. If your printer has an Entrust single-wire smart card reader installed, we recommend you install the printer via network in order to gain the most benefit from the single-wire technology. Simply select Network and enter the printer IP address. Then click Test Configuration and save. If your printer has a two-wire smart card reader installed, you have two options for configuration: USB or network and USB. If your printer is going to be connected via USB, then select USB. If your printer is going to be connected via Ethernet cable or Wi-Fi, then select network and USB. I'm going to cover USB first, so I select USB from the drop-down list. I then have the same choice to make as before, depending on whether the printer is connected via USB to the Instant ID server PC or to an Instant ID client PC. If it is connected to the Instant ID server PC, simply select the printer driver from the drop-down list, then click on the Discover button. The smart card reader drivers which are installed on the Instant ID server PC are displayed in the coupler name drop-down list. Select your smart card reader from the drop-down list, click Test Configuration and save. If the printer with the two-wire smart card reader is installed via USB on a client PC, then you need to select the Advanced Setup checkbox and enter the same information as you did previously. Then click Discover, select your smart card reader, test the configuration and save. If the printer with the 2-wire smart card reader is installed via Ethernet cable or Wi-Fi, then select Network and USB and then enter the same information as you did before. Then click Discover, select the smart card reader, test configuration and save. If you have configured a printer which has a multi-hopper, for example a Sigma or CR805 printer which uses the 6-compartment multi-hopper, then you can assign different credential designs to different hoppers. This means every time you print a particular credential design, it will always pick from the same hopper that you configure in this screen. For example, I have 2 credential designs, so I am assigning the visitor badge credential design to hopper 1 of my CR805 printer, which has a 6-compartment multi-hopper. I then assign the employee badge credential design to hopper 2 of the multi-hopper. Now, every time I print the visitor badge, it will pick from hopper 1, and every time I print the employee badge, it will pick from hopper 2. Lastly, you can configure certain printer preferences for the user of Instant ID by selecting the user ID and then selecting Preferences. The printer drop-down list can be used to select a printer which you wish to appear at the top of the list of configured printers at the time of printing a credential. For example, if there is a printer which you use more frequently than others. If the printer has a multi-hopper, you can select which of the 6 hoppers is the default hopper to pick cards from. And lastly, if you do not wish to be prompted to select a printer at the time of printing a credential design, then deselect the Always Prompt for Printer checkbox. Once you are happy with your changes, click Save. That completes this demonstration. Thank you for watching.